Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight we are continuing my reading and review of The Book of the Damned by Charles Fort. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, which is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. Support is never expected, but always appreciated. And there's a couple ways you can do that if you would like, either through Patreon or through the merchandise store. Please follow our friends of the show, Jen, the Arcane Observer, on her own show, and then her channel, and then she's also the co-host of this show. And then Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows from others as well as myself. And I think that takes care of everything there. A few things I always like to mention at the beginning of these reading and review shows. What I'm reading here is from a book. These are not necessarily my necessarily ideas or thoughts that I will always agree with, and probably the same goes for you all. Just keep that in mind as we go through, and I'd appreciate that. Also, I will make mistakes in reading, so this is not an audiobook in any way. And I'll be stopping here and there to comment on things as well. Also, the other thing too, besides the mistakes, also the mistakes will include mispronunciations of names, places, and people, especially those that are in other languages. I do not speak English. I do not speak any other languages, and I barely speak English well enough as it is. So, also, there may be some things in this book that are discussed as being mysterious or unexplained, but that have been sort of figured out by science since then. This book came out in the early 1900s, so things will have changed between then and now. So just I want to let everyone know what's going on here with this book, and it's still been amazing to read it, and I'm looking forward to getting back to this year. So thank you all for being here and listening in, and let me get back to the this book here, and we'll keep reading and get as much in as we can. So let's find my spot again. Okay. It says, again, ours is the objection against such selectiveness by a whirlwind. Conceivably, and also this is about falling objects, weird objects falling from the sky, or the unexplained way that objects have fallen from the sky at different times. Conceivably, a whirlwind could scoop out a den of hibernating snakes with stones and earth and an infinitude of other debris, snatching up dozens of snakes. I don't know how many to a den, hundreds maybe, but according to the account of this occurrence in the New York Times, there were thousands of them alive, from 1 foot to 18 inches in length. The Scientific American 36-86 records the fall and says that there were thousands of them. The usual whirlwind explanation is given, but in what locality snakes exist in abundance is yet a mystery, according to the publication there. This matter of enormousness of numbers suggests to me something of a migratory nature, but that snakes in the United States do not migrate in the month of January, if ever. As to falls or flutterings of winged insects from the sky, prevailing notions of swarming would seem explanatory enough. Nevertheless, in instances of ants, there are some peculiar circumstances. Astronomy, 1889-353. Fall of Fishes, June 13th, 1889, in Holland. Ants, August 1st, 1889, Strasbourg. Little Toads, August 2nd, 1889, Savoy. Fall of Ants, Cambridge, England, summer of 1874. In quotation marks here. Some were wingless, in quotation marks. Parentheses, Scientific American 30-193, in parentheses. Enormous fall of ants. Nancy, France, July 21st, 1887. Apparently, that's the name of a place. That's interesting. In quotation marks, most of them were wingless. In quotation marks, begin parentheses. Nature 36-349, in parentheses. Fall of enormous unknown ants, size of wasps. Manitoba, June 1895. In parentheses, Scientific American 72-385, in parentheses. However, our expression will be that winged larval forms of life in numbers so enormous that migration from some place external to this earth is suggested have fallen from the sky. That these migrations, if such can be our acceptance, have occurred at a time of hibernation and burial far in the ground of larvae in the northern latitudes of this earth, that there is significance in recurrence of these falls in the last of January, or that we have the square of an incredibility, in such a notion as that of selection of larvae by whirlwinds, compounded with selection of the last of January. I accept that there are snow worms upon this earth, whatever their origin may have been. In the Procedural Academy of Nature, not sure, Science and Science of Philadelphia, 1899-125, there is a description of yellow worms and black worms that have been found together on glaciers in Alaska. Almost positively were there no other forms of insect life upon these glaciers, and there was no vegetation to support insect life, except microscopic organisms. Nevertheless, the description of this probably polymorphic species fits a description of larvae said to have fallen in Switzerland, and less definitely fits another description. There is no opposition here if our data of falls are clear. Frogs of everyday ponds look like frogs said to have fallen from the sky, except the whitish frogs of Birmingham. However, all falls of larvae have not positively occurred in the last of January. London Times, April 14th, 1837. that in the parish of Bramford not sure, Devonshire, a large number of black worms, about 3/4 of an inch in length, had fallen in a snowstorm. In Tim's yearbook, 1877-26, it is said that in the winter of 1876, at Christiania, Norway, worms were found crawling upon the ground. The occurrence is considered a great mystery because the worms could not have come up from the ground, insomuch as the ground was frozen at the time, and because they were reported from other places also in Norway. Immense number of black insects in a snowstorm in 1827 at Pakroff, Russia, parentheses, Scientific American 30-193, close parentheses. Fall with snow at Orenburg, Russia, December 14th, 1830, of a multitude of small black insects, said to have been gnats, but also said to have had flea-like motions. Open parentheses, American Journal of Science 1-22-375, close parentheses. Large number of worms found in a snowstorm upon the surface of snow about 4 inches thick near Sangerfield, New York, November 18th, 1850. Open parentheses, Scientific American 6-96, close parentheses. The writer thinks that the worms had been brought to the surface of the ground by rain which had fallen previously. Scientific American, February 21st, 1891. Open quotations. A puzzling phenomenon has been noted frequently in some parts of the Valley Bend District, Randolph County, Virginia, this winter. The crust of the snow has been covered 2 or 3 times with worms resembling the ordinary cutworms. Where they come from, unless they fall with the snow, is inexplicable, end quotation marks. In the Scientific American, March 7th, 1891, the editor says that similar worms had been seen upon the snow near Utica, New York, and in Oneida and Herkimer counties, that some of the worms had been sent to the Department of Agriculture at Washington. Again, 2 species, or polymorphism. According to Professor Riley, it was not polymorphism, in quotation marks, but 2 distinct species, in quotation marks, which, because of our data, we doubt. One kind was larger than the other. Color differences not distinctly stated. One is called the larvae of the common soldier beetle, and the other, in quotation marks, seems to be a variety of the bronze cut worm, in quotation marks. No attempt to explain the occurrence in snow. Fall of great numbers of larvae of beetles near Mortagne, France, May 1858. The larvae were inanimate as if with cold. Open parentheses, Annals of Society of Entomology of France, 1858. and end parentheses. Transcription of the, not sure what that abbreviation is, Society of, maybe an entomological, words are hard, of London, 1871, 1-183, records stowing of larvae in Silesia, 1806. Appearance of many larvae on the snow in Saxony, 1811. Larvae found alive on the snow, 1828. Larvae in snow which fell together in Eiffel, January 30th, 1847. Fall of insects, January 24th, 1849. In Lithuania, occurrence of larvae estimated at 300,000 on the snow in Switzerland in 1856. The compiler says that most of these larvae live underground or at the roots of trees, that whirlwinds uproot trees and carry away the larvae, conceiving of them as not held in the masses of frozen earth, all as neatly detachable as currents in something. I've never seen that word, currants. In the review of zoology, I don't know how to say the rest of that, 1849-72, there is an account of the fall in Lithuania, January 24th, 1849, that black larvae had fallen in enormous numbers. Larvae thought to have been of beetles, but described as caterpillars, not seen to fall, but found crawling on the snow after a snowstorm at Warsaw, January 20th, 1850. In parentheses, all the year round, 8-253, close parentheses. Flammarion, open parentheses, the atmosphere, page 414, close parentheses, tells of a fall of larvae that occurred January 30th, 1869, in a snowstorm in Upper Savoy. Open quotation marks. They could not have been hatched in the neighborhood, for during the days preceding, the temperature had been very low, close parentheses. Close quotation marks. Said to have been of a species common in the south of France. In science, words I don't know, I think they're in French, 14-183, it is said that with these larvae, there were developed insects. Astronomy, 1890-313, that upon the last of January, 1890, there fell, in a great tempest in Switzerland, incalculable numbers of larvae, some black and some yellow, numbers so great that hosts of birds were attracted. Altogether, we regard this as one of our neatest expressions for external origins, and against the whirlwind explanation. If an exclusionist says that, in January, larvae were precisely and painstakingly picked out of frozen ground in incalculable numbers, he thinks of a tremendous force, disregarding its refinements. Then if origin and precipitation be not far apart, what becomes of an infinitude of other debris, conceiving of no time for segregation? If he thinks of a long translation, all the way from the south of France to Upper Savoy. He may think then of a very fine sorting over by difference of specific gravity. But in such a fine selection, larvae would be separated from developed insects. As to differences in specific gravity, the yellow larvae that fell in Switzerland, January 1890, were 3 times the size of the black larvae that fell with them. In accounts of this occurrence, there is no denial of the fall, or that a whirlwind never brought them together and held them together and precipitated them and only them together, that they came from Genesis stream. There's no escape from it. Will be persecuted for it. Take it or leave it. Genestrine. The notion is that there is somewhere aloft a place of origin of life relatively to this earth. Whether it's the planet Genesistrine or the moon or a vast amorphous region super adjacent to this earth, or an island in the super Sargasso Sea. There it is. Should perhaps be left to the researches of other super or extra geographers. That the first unicellular organisms may have come here from Genesistrine, and that's Genesistrine, or that men or anthropomorphic beings may have come here before amoeba. That upon Genesistrine there may have been an evolution expressible in conventional biologic terms, but that evolution upon this earth has been, like evolution in modern Japan, induced by external influences. That evolution as a whole upon this earth has been a process of population by immigration or by bombardment. Some notes I have upon remains of men and animals encysted, encysted, or covered with clay or stone, as if fired here, as projectiles. I omit now because it seems best to regard the whole phenomenon as a tropism, as a geotropism, probably atavistic or vestigial, as it were, or something still continuing long after expiration of necessity, that once upon a time all kinds of things came here from Genesistrine, but that now only a few kinds of bugs and things at long intervals feel the inspiration. And that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.